So I'm going to talk about Sephardic cursive script. It is a follow-up from what my friends and colleagues have already presented. I work on Hebrew PAL as well, and it is as well a part of Hebrew PAL. We could talk about other scripts, but Sephardi is great, not only because the cursive is originally Maghrebi in the Muslim sense of the division of the world into Mashrek and Maghreb, so the Islamic East and Islamic West, so North Africa, then Spain, and then of course Christian Spain, because we know what happened. So the same script developed. So Sephardi script is a very good example, and I'm trying to show you why. However, before that, I would like to begin with a quotation which is attributed to Hayyan al-Tawhidi, who was not a Jewish author, but a Muslim author, a philosopher, Mutazila. We don't really know very well whether he was from Persia or Iraq, but he wrote, or probably he wrote, a little guidebook for the scribes. He was himself a philosopher, but also a scribe. And he said, "Recently, I lifted a whip with my hand several times and cracked it over the head of my mount. As a result, my handwriting was changed for a while. When I told this story to Abu Sulaiman, he said, 'What a wonderful remark. It could have been made with regard to a musician.'" So we have spoken about the importance of the body position. We have spoken about the importance of the material and of the instrument. However, the main instrument of the scribe is the hand. And what happens, and what I tried to show it in another article where we discussed a lot with Peter. He invited me to a conference one day about the memory of the hand, the sensory motor memory, which is today very much studied by psychologists, neuro specialists working on the cognitive science of the script. So the hand has a memory. And this is how I think the scripts develop. And this is, I think, how especially the cursive script could be understood. So it's going to be very short, but I will try to go into this direction. So the hand is important. The hand is trained. So the hand is trained through children exercises. Here there is an example like the ones that Jean-Luc has shown us yesterday from the Cairo Geniza, the same person training to write in Hebrew and in Arabic. His Arabic is much better than his Hebrew, I must say. And of course, the training can go, as we have seen, into combinations of letters, all kinds of cryptology techniques that were used in children education. Here you have again an exercise book from the Cairo Geniza. But what is important, it's not only reproducing and copying the models, but also learning the movement. And here I have brought an example of a Jewish person on a reused Hebrew script, manuscript, but the person is training how to write in Arabic. We have other examples of Arabic training script of the same individual. And we have simply here 9 times the repetition of the word dalika, 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 this. It doesn't mean anything. It is really an exercise in writing the word, but especially in getting the movement right. Because for the Arabic script, which is extremely rounded and ligatured, attached, connected, the training of the hand and this memory of the hand, which will result in that, the sensory motor memory, is very important in writing. So we have spoken a lot about Sephardi script and cursive script. I'm not going to go into huge definitions and boring you, but when we talk about the Hebrew scripts, and you have probably already realized, we talk about we work on the Middle Ages, and we talk about literally the entire medieval oikumene, because Jewish communities, very small minorities, but were very widely spread. And the scripts, which all come originally from the Middle East, from the greater Syria or Palestine or Israel, whatever you prefer, originally, of course, were very widely spread from China to Portugal, from England to Yemen in the south, or even India. So we are talking about a huge world and a lot of changes that happened during the Middle Ages. We can follow these changes with dated manuscripts from about the 9th century only. We have a huge gap between the Qumran period and what we call Cairo Geniza period, the documents coming from the Cairo Geniza, we don't have so much evidence in between. However, I am always trying to show the development of two different branches of Oriental script, Northeastern or from Iraq, Iran, and Southwestern, which is more or less Palestine and Egypt, and then different scripts develop, and it is supported by cultural transfer as well. It's not just the script as a graphic shape, but also the culture, the text, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about the Sephardic, we talk about this group, North Africa, I think you know, and Sepharad in the sense of Iberian Peninsula, and then from, it's the Hebrew word to say Spain, basically, and then from Spain to Provence and parts of Italy. However, when we talk about the cursive script, it is Sephardic cursive script, it is basically Maghrebi script. It's North African script, which developed in North Africa. The instrument which is used to write the cursive script is a reed pen, but as you can see, the reed pen can be cut in very different ways. This is what we saw already yesterday. But in order to obtain the curvilinear script that I'm going to talk about, the script is cut sharp. The instrument is cut sharply. It's the point which is writing it. Sometimes the scribe bites it to make the point a little bit like a Egyptian paintbrush, okay? But it's actually the pointed calamus. The script developed in North Africa. Why do I say developed in North Africa? Actually, I have no idea. The earliest evidence of the cursive Maghrebi script comes from the Cairo Geniza, discovered in Fustat in Egypt, however, belonging to the letters, commercial letters, by the tradesmen from Tunisia, from Barca in Libya today, and from Algeria and Morocco. So really the Maghreb, the North Africa, and the cursive script is attested for the first time as a professional style and not as a cultural group of scripts. It's attested among the merchants. It is a very difficult script to read if you are not trained to do it. If you are trained, of course, the readability becomes very easy because this is how you train to read. But for people, even paleographers today, these are the most difficult Hebrew script to read. Maybe 17th century Italian is worse, but that's after the Middle Ages. So when we talk about these are types of the script, different geographical definition, and we talk about North Africa and then Iberian Peninsula. The earliest documents in this cursive script, which are Maghrebi merchants script, it's a mercantesca script at the origin, and then it becomes a beautiful bookhand used in documents, books, sometimes very calligraphic. So being cursive does not mean very quick, ugly, and documentary. It can be a beautiful script as well. So geographically speaking, Maghreb and Spain, and then we talk in the Hebrew paleography about the modes of script or styles of script. We have, of course, here I'm showing you Sephardi documents already from the Iberian Peninsula. So we have the square mode. I'm not boring you, you see by yourselves. We have the non-square, minuscule, or middle one, or in between, Benoni in Hebrew, as you heard, or semi-square. All this goes for this script. And then finally, we have the cursive script. I'm showing you 3 documents which are very elaborate, very beautifully written. These are calligraphic documents, and they are immediately different. They come from the same part of the world. So these are really different genera scribendi under the same typological way. To understand how this cursive script works, of course, we also resort to experimental paleography. And if you go on our Hebrew Pal website that you have heard so much already about, you will have a series of films where our colleague Jen Taylor, who is a professional scribe, including the scribe of Holy Torah scrolls, today the first woman to do it, strictly forbidden by Orthodox Judaism, but there are other Judaisms too. So she has made films for us. This one imitates the handwriting. She is a great forger. So imitates the handwriting of the great philosopher Moses Maimonides, who died in 1204. And she, being a historian and paleographer, as well as calligrapher and scribe, she's really studying the instruments and the supports which were used. So she tries really to reconstruct not only the movement, not only the shape, but in general, the context. So we have spoken a lot, especially Mark, about how do we define the scripts and whether the typology that we use is adequate or not, and how important it is to talk not only about the shape of the letters, but also about the letter in the making. We already had the discussion about what the ductus is. But what I would like to point out is that when I talk about the cursive script, I will first define the general features of this script taken as a whole, and then go to specific diagnostic letter shapes. And I think that both should be considered. So I wouldn't base my typology on one or the other. So the general features are very important. You can define the cursive script, not cursivity, because the non-square minuscule has a great deal of cursivity when you compare it with the square script. But what is something that we call cursive script? So first of all, I can define it by reduction of the number of visible and invisible movements or strokes. Here I have put the inverted commas. The omission of additional strokes, serifs, heads, feet. There is the pure skeleton of the letter. Preference for curvilinear strokes. It goes quicker when you make rounded strokes, but you can't make them with any type of instrument. So the instrument can be appropriate. So pointed. Calamus if you write with a reed pen, which is the case of Sephardic scripts. Preference for rounded rather than angular junctures, or the change of the movement of the stroke. Preference for the letters verticality. It's much quicker. We saw it with the Gothic script, yes? It's much quicker to write from top to bottom rather than from left to right or right to left, whether you are right-handed or left-handed scribe. Increased density. Well, if you squeeze the letters to be vertical, the black is going to be more visible on your page than the white. The allographs, especially in ligatures, these scripts, the cursive scripts in Hebrew have a great deal of allographs for the same letter, different forms of the same letters. The legibility is poor because despite of the allographs for, let's say, Aleph, several letters, Dalet, Gimel, and so on and so forth, can be very similar. So if you don't know what you are reading, it's very difficult to read. These are very difficult scripts, so there's poor legibility. Mark has made a distinction between the legibility and the comfort of reading, readability. So the comfort of reading depends on what people are used to. So if the people are used to writing this and reading this script, they read it, and that's their best, easiest script. There is quite a lot of cases of nesting. That means different levels of the baseline and letters underlying the other one on several levels. They're writing letters Yud and Vav at different positions in the light of writing, top, middle, and bottom. And there are, of course, ligatures of many types. And with Peter's talks, we had discussions about how to call them. So we have come up with nexus, with intra-letter ligatures or inter-letter ligatures, okay? So we have definitions for that. Anyway, all these ligatures are present in the script. And then there are some diagnostic letters which for the Sephardic cursive or Maghrebi cursive are identified as the letter Aleph, Hey, Kof, and Tav. These letters are very specific. Why? Because they have, to make long story short, intra-letter ligatures. That means that these letters, which can be traced with many different movements or strokes with the change of the direction, can be as well, for the cursive, traced in one go with the change of the direction and the point, meeting point, the juncture, the point of juncture of the letters. So all the letter is just one convoluted line. It's an intra-letter ligature. This is why when we find these letters, we can talk about the cursive script. So it's quite technical, in fact, and easy to define when you put all these points together. And just to show you a few examples of, this is a document from Cairo 1, so from the Maghreb. And we have indeed the nexus, the interletter ligatures, as well as intra-letter ligature of the letter Kof. So this is a letter of a Maghrebi merchant whose name was Ibn Sigmar. This letter dates from 1060. One of the earliest that we have is this one, which, as you can see, there are very few interletter ligatures, but a lot of intraletter ligatures. So the number and proportions of these elements can differ in these scripts, but you must find them, at least two of them. So here we have lots of intraletter ligatures, not so many interletter ligatures, and actually the density is very low. It's one of the earliest known attested cursive letters from Cairo 1 from 1008. So we are at the very beginning of the 11th century. I will not multiply the examples, but I would like to show you a very interesting allographs case where we have the typical kappa shape aleph, which develops from the 4th century AD. At least it's attested in the 4th century AD in Dura Europos, in eastern provinces, in Aramaic documents. And then it develops as a feature of a non-square minuscule or Beinoni, whatever. And then in the same word, as you can see, we have the cursive feature, because just like in Arabic script, which contains several different forms of the same letters according to the place in the word, in Hebrew of the Arabic speaking and Arabic writing people, because these people write Arabic every day and read Arabic every day, they will use different forms of the letters. But unlike Arabic, it's not really the beginning, the middle, and the end of the word. Some of them are, but not all of them. They are being used in a very indiscriminate way, but the idea of using completely different shapes of the letters is there. And that comes probably from the other language that they use and they write all the time. So we have as well, however, some contextual, I would say, letters. For instance, here we have the letter Hey allographs. At the end of the word, sometimes it's the more classical shape of the letter Hey, but sometimes in another word of the same scribe, we will find an intralettered ligature. Same for, well, I will not have time to give you all these examples. Here you have probably the earliest cursive document from Spain. This one is from Lucena, from the middle of the 11th century. And we have all the features that we find in Maghrebi documents in this Andalusi document. Well, actually, Andalus was the Maghreb at that time. So we have three different allographs of the letter Hey. This is a more classical non-square letter Hey. This is a letter Hey with intraletter ligature written in one movement. And here at the end of the word with a ligature, with a joint to the previous letter, so it has a shape of a loop, or let's say the Arabic wow, that's written just like the Arabic letter, not the same letter. So here we have the comparison, and when you look at this script, this one is from the 13th century. This is my alarm, but I think I still have 2 minutes. So if you look at this script, this manuscript is from Salamanca. It is from the middle of the 13th century. You have the date. Well, it was written in Saragossa. Sorry, it's in Salamanca library. When you look from far away at this letter, you get an impression that it's not Hebrew at all. Looks like Arabic. So this is quite interesting. And indeed, here I come back to this notion of the hand. The hand that writes Arabic is used to write specific shapes of the letters. So these scripts, although they are written in Spain, sometimes in Christian Spain, here we have a document from the archives of Francesco d'Attini, of the great Tuscan scribe. It's not him. He didn't write in Hebrew, but he had Jewish his company had Jewish collaborators, and we have several documents in the registers from the end of the 14th century, very beginning of the 15th. And here we have again exactly the same principles of the script. So we have ligatures with sprouting lines connecting the letters. Like here we have the letter Shin followed by the letter Kof with the attachment with a connector that you can see here. we have sometimes, very interesting, the connector. So I told you that the letter Hey in Hebrew, especially at the end of the word, is loop-shaped, like the waw in Arabic words. It's not the same letter, not the same phonetics. Sometimes it has similar grammatical function, but it's not the same letter, but it is in the same position. Coming after a letter with a base, and then writing the final letter of the word. Both of them appear very often in the same position. So the memory of the hand is working. Why the memory of the hand? Here I quote Le Roi Gourand, the great ethnologist, who considered writing as one of the automatic movements, automatic actions. So according to him, the writing is done in such a way that the person who is a very proficient, very good writer, who doesn't control the writing, and here Colette Sirat is always talking about the controlled writing and the more spontaneous writing, where you focus on the content and not on the act of writing. So if you don't think about what your hand is doing, your hand can get crazy and do the movements to which it is used simply. So it is, according to Le Roi Gourand, on an automatic pilot, in the sense that for 4 seconds, apparently, when we write, we don't think about it, and our consciousness switches on every 4 seconds. So this is why there is this change, and this change can account. Oh yes, I'd like to finish. I'd like just to show you this one. Some scribes, as I told you, have this movement from bottom to top to finish the words, but very few of them can attach the final wow to the top, not to the bottom. I think that these are left-handed scribes. So it might be interesting to think about them as left-handed scribe. It's easier for them. So this is what I think, but it is to be proved. Just an inkling. So we have as well very interesting phenomenon of splitting letters, attaching parts of the same letter, one with what precedes and one with follows, because of this movement of the hand. So actually the letter is disintegrated, it doesn't exist. It's split completely into 2 different parts. And these dynamics of change, so I was thinking about Jean Malon and about the film that Mark was telling us about a lot, and even sent us a link. Jean Malon made a film about the about the change in time through the ductus. So here we can follow it. We can follow it. So what Evgenia was showing as well. Look, this is the document. It's 3 very short lines. You have the description of what it is. It comes from the Datini as well. You have 12 instances of the letter Aleph. It starts by a kappa-shaped Aleph, which is completely detached. The 2 parts are detached. And then the same scribe, it's not in this order in the text, but the scribe writes the letter in such a way that finally the letter is written in one movement and becomes the typical cursive kappa-shaped Aleph. Hamza-shaped Aleph, like Arabic Hamza. Okay, from kappa-shaped to Hamza-shaped written in one movement. And it can happen in one document. So this change, which can be a change from one mode to another, or a chronological development, can actually happen in the space of the same document. It is a cognitive change, but the cognitive change, if I finish with that, can become a stylistic model for other documents. And this beautiful manuscript is actually a manuscript in cursive script, okay? But it's highly stylized. It's 15th century, it's from Provence. And indeed, the links, for instance, the connectors of the letters, can be developed as connectors of the letters, but as additional, very decorative elements. So I would like just to point out that we should think about the thinking hand, okay, the memory of hand, and how important it is in the evolution and development of script. Thank you very much.